All right, good evening, everyone. It is Thursday, July 18th. It is 5:30 p.m. I'm going to call the Community Preservation Committee regular meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded. We are live in person and available via Zoom. We could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start off with committee member introductions. I'm Kevin Smith, the chair and also Parks and Rec representative.
Alicia Wilson, vice chair, member at large.
Pat Gales, Historical Commission.
Dan Higgins, Planning Board Representative.
Adele College, representing the Housing Authority.
And Branson, at-large member.
Paul Reynolds, representing Concom.
We don't have minutes because Elizabeth is traveling back and forth across the country, so she's been out for a little bit. So I didn't try to bug her, let her enjoy her vacation, so we'll just catch up and we'll double up at the next. I hope it when she does it. Dave was also unable to join us quick, so we'll just kind of go through a couple things quick on financial reports. One kind of big thing with the end of the fiscal year, moving into FY25 is just some leftovers. Oh, I want to mute you. Sorry. The 5% that we have allocated for all our clerical, professional, technical communications and stuff. Just to give an update on that. So like we have $2,000 allocated for clerical. Year to date, we only spent $179.52. So there's a balance of $1,820 there. We had $2,000 allocated for professional and technical, which is something that we used in the past. I think when we bought the new laptop, like we used that. This year we've spent $0. So there's $2,000. There was a $2,000 balance there. For communications, we allocated $1,000. We spent $193.32 for our ad in the newspaper for our annual public hearing. So we have a balance of $806.68 there. Office supplies, we allocated $500. We spent $0, so there's that full balance there. And then for dues, we allocated $1,000. We spent $875, and that's our dues to the Community Preservation Coalition. So we have a balance of $125 there. So out of the $6,500 allocated for those items, we spent $872.84. And then we had $5,251.68 left over. And what happens is that will actually roll into our undesignated unreserved account at the end of the year. So it's just like a little savings account if we're not using it. So I just wanted to give everybody a quick update on that. And I'll kind of segue into, under old business, I just have annual review, the annual town meeting warrant article vote results. So all three of the warrant articles that we had all passed. So our allocations passed I think it was 13.5 for each bucket. And then again, 68.50 for all the professional, technical, clerical, and all that stuff. So once we can kind of start, maybe in our next meeting, we'll have a little bit better view of what the overall balances look like, plus closing out of a couple different projects as well. So, but then the Trails Committee passed unanimously, the historical one passed unanimously. So I'm moving forward with all those. Anybody have any questions about that meeting? So the next, under old business is review, discuss, and act, CPC project updates. The reconditioning of the town's vital records. That's complete. And that was just under,
The conservator.
yeah. So that was just under it's $50 less than what was allocated, so it was $49,950, but that project is complete and that one's closed out. I believe the last historic records, the historic survey, the $25,000 one is completed and closed out. I still have a little bit lingering on both the parks, the North Dayton ball field fencing and lighting, and the playground. The playground, I'm 99% sure I'm done with. We got the sign for the front made out of that, and I think that's the last piece, so I should be able to, I'm just gonna double check everything, and then we should close that out, and I think
The sign is up, I haven't been by
yeah,
there.
it's right behind the backstop.
I'll have to go take a look.
So we have that done, so that should be completed. And then we'll have a balance left over to return for that. There is still some viability with the boat ramp project. I have to revisit with the Board of Selectmen and the interim town administrator under executive session to kind of further those discussions. I think probably the best move, what I'll do is kind of, because when you're talking about land takings, it's gonna come, even though it's CPC money, the land taking still needs to come from the Board of Selectmen.
Mhm.
So I'll probably meet with them first and then report back under executive session with the CPC, I think is, instead of getting ahead of ourselves.
And then you can report back to us.
Yes, but because and that will happen under executive session too, because it would be,
Okay,
you know,
like
that-
last time, yeah.
yes,
yeah.
just like last
Yeah.
time. Anybody else have anything else for projects, updates?
For the new project, I have Stacy's contract and it's in front of the selectmen for next Wednesday. She actually came in at 2,500. She quoted us 3,500, but she cut the price for us because we have other things that are coming on. We're doing an in-depth dive on Mount Hope. On the form that we did for them, there's some more questions that came up. Of course, when you start talking, there's always questions. So she's really interested in Mount Hope, so she's like, I'll just cut this project back a little bit so that you have money to do if we need to do Mount Hope. So I said, oh, thank you very much, and
Nice.
so that's in front of the selectmen on Wednesday, and once the contract's signed by everybody, she'll get started.
Awesome.
So that's the North Dayton
That's-
section of it?
This is West Dayton, we're doing
West Dayton,
the 10 properties in West Dayton.
Yeah.
And we identified the 10 properties, and don't ask me off the top of my head what they
No,
are, but we went through the list, and we're actually going by,
obviously the church.
yeah, whatever's appears to be the oldest is what we're looking at first.
And I think we had reported last time that the electrical work was complete, and actually I had since talked to Robbie, the director, and that is also, that's another one that's closed out as well, because that was completed. We got all the invoices and the information that the accounting department needed to close out that project, so that is also one that's kind of off our rolls.
If you go by and they're digging big trenches, they're still working electric, they're putting underwater wires and things like that. There's still a lot going on there, but finding,
Yeah, the
we're
panel
finding,
portion, yeah.
we're good.
Right, so next up, review, discuss and act CPC project signage. It kind of like fell off the radar with the sign company that we were using previously to do some of our other town signs. Like I'd asked for to amend, because we had that language discrepancy. So I had asked to amend that, and then it just fell through the cracks somehow with other things going on in town, I guess. So I can revisit that. One thing I did wanna kind of talk about, because we talked about in one of our previous meetings, was having signage posted during construction, or and then having some sort of permanent signage at a project, you know, so that it shows for the life of it that, that it was, CPA funds were used. One kind of idea that crossed my mind, because it might be a little less expensive and it's something that will certainly be easier to move, is instead of going with that, kind of robust permanent sign like we have, like the other one still posted at the North Layton Playground, is almost doing like the political signs or business signs that you just stake in the yard. Because I mean, we could have a dozen of those made and just keep them on hand for projects under construction.
Then you'd have
And
time to
then-
get a permit.
And it would just, I don't even, and then like then as far as like the permanent one goes, like I'm thinking like something like the size of like some sort of plaque. Versus, not necessarily a sign, but something more plaque related. I didn't have a chance to send it out to everybody, but I can show us all quick here. Paul, I'll email this to you too, just so you have a look. We don't need to make any decisions tonight anyway, but I just wanted to throw it out there. Wait, did I have a screenshot of it? So I was just kind of looking around at, because like with town, we have an Amazon business account, and like sometimes these things are quick and inexpensive. So like, and again, doesn't necessarily have to be like that sort of design, but we could do something as simple as that.
That's nice.
And they're cheap, they're $40, $37.99. So I think like something like that, a little bit more pronounced than that. I feel like stuff like that is tough to read.
Yeah.
So I think like having that light background with some colors. So what I'll do is between now and our next meeting, I'll try to do like a half a dozen examples, different shapes of different fonts and stuff, and then we can kind of, I'll send them to everybody ahead of time. And I'll get some pricing on, everybody kind of in agreement that like the yard sign might be a better option for. It's
Well, the project's going
in
on,
process.
yeah, oh, sure.
Requirement,
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
of the CPA, right?
Right,
So it's not like, we just wanna do the bare minimum at that point, I think having permanent is the nice part, but it's just meet the requirement
right.
overboard.
Yeah, so I'll get some pricing on that, I'll pull it off of that original, and we'll just shrink it down, it's on the yard sign. Because I think of the one at North Lane, I think that one's like a sheet of plywood, it's 4x8, it's, not fun to move. So it's like, I wouldn't expect, somebody doing a project.
Is that the society?
Yeah, I dug that out of the bushes and brought it back to life and dragged it over there, and then iced my back for a week, it's ridiculous. Yeah, so
Geez, if it's that heavy, somebody would help.
I wanted to meet the requirements, I was very ambitious. Now I just want to stay. All the day.
Yeah, you're too young for a bag thing.
Actually get those political type signs on Amazon too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they have like batches of 10 or.
Perfect. Yeah, so and then, I mean, that's really the easiest way to purchase, because then I'm not trying to do a PO with, order them right through Amazon business for the town and for a couple of days. Yeah, so I'll put together some pricing and stuff for that, so we'll try to go that route. So this thing's
Sounds good.
really,
I've seen some just walking around, I had jury duty in Bedford, and I walked by a building, and they were doing construction, said it was, funded by the CPA. Yeah. Oh, wow, look at that.
Middle road, I didn't notice this, go down there, this is.
Yeah,
It's all those things.
now that you know what we're seeing.
Yeah, well, at first, when I saw it, there's building, and I went, oh, wow, that's.
nice.
It didn't have to be a big sign, it's just,
And then we'll make Pat hand out, the permanent ones to all the houses that were surveyed, which will not come over to us. Yeah, this is what
don't give us too many choices, it'll be like.
I think that's it for old business, so we'll move on to new business, which was review, discuss, and act the application of eligibility from the Dayton Housing Authority. And I did send you guys the documentation from the coalition. And one thing I just want to make sure we do is to stay on track and discuss the eligibility portion of it, not our opinion on funding. I feel like just in general with any project. But there was a couple other comments made by people who couldn't make it to tonight's meeting that were more funding related, and I feel like that's a deterrent for the applicant too, and we don't wanna set a precedent that we already feel some way before we even see the big picture. So.
Mr. Chairman, I did have a chance to read through, and I also did a little other research, and I found an interesting document that I'd like to share with the committee, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. I was reading through, there's a release, put out an informational release by the Department of Housing and Community Development. It's called Release 2013-14, so 2013-14. And it does a really good job addressing the issue of what is preservation versus maintenance. Because from the reading that we've done, it seems like it gets a little bit nebulous, where housing authorities are concerned, and that there are definitely some elements that are considered preservation. And as far as the eligibility of the proposal goes, I saw a couple of notes in there that made me feel like it definitely sounds like it matches the eligibility guidelines, specifically where the windows are concerned, where I believe that it said specifically that this is going to help to address the water tightness and prevent water infiltration on the windowsills. And that's actually on the second page under the first header. That's one of the specifically noted allowable uses of CPA funds for housing authorities. I believe I also saw a provision about making them more energy efficient. So while that's actually in the maintenance or rehabilitation column, I forget what they called it, but that wouldn't be considered preservation. But I did note that there was a couple elements at the very least that do seem like they're explicitly within the guidelines. So my early indication was that whether every specific aspect of it ends up that every the specific facets and uses could be talked about, like you said, is more of a funding issue. But just in terms of eligibility, I feel like I did see quite a bit that made me feel like it would be eligible.
I would agree, and I read this for the same thing you did. I think one thing that concerns me just in general, because it's like I think we need to do our due diligence, is in this instance, especially, where wording kind of plays a huge role, because I tossed myself back and forth as I read, oh, we want to replace the windows because they're gonna be more energy efficient, and then you put an X on it, but then it's like, but we have, it's gonna also cause issues with leaking with the siding, so it's like, all right, it's back on. So I don't know if we necessarily need to do it in this case, but I think moving forward when we have these sort of requests, it would be good to see some sort of documentation from either the head of maintenance, or if there was an independent inspection done showing that yes, there is a detrimental effect to the building envelope because the window seals are failing. Because you literally could just word your way around the guidelines. If somebody took this deep dive and you could word it and we wouldn't know otherwise unless we ourselves performed a physical inspection. So
I totally agree. That makes a lot of sense to me. I completely agree the way that it seems like it could be reworded. It's got a little bit of an element of "Mom said no, go ask Dad" to it, on the way that you can just kind of rephrase it.
that was a good reference.
Just so you know, the building is 50 years old. So when we're looking at historic preservation, Mass Historical Commission considers anything over 50 years old as, could be considered significant. However, in Dayton, we've been using 100 years simply because we have so many buildings that are 100 years old that haven't been documented yet. But that doesn't mean that it couldn't be considered. After all, it was the first and only senior housing in Dayton, from a historical point of view.
So one thing I just want.
So they could check two boxes.
You'd have to consider it as, the commission would have to look at it to say that it was locally significant. I don't know what they,
Yeah,
but the age did stand out to me, so I just wanted to make sure that all of you were aware of that too.
Yeah, one thing I just wanna, just so it's on the recording too, is the one kind of note I think that pertains largely to us is the intent in the application is the intent of this project is to replace the windows and siding at one building, Building B. The windows are original at Building B and well beyond useful life. This development was built in 1974, consists of 8 low-rise elderly 2-story buildings on a site of approximately 6 acres. Each building has a total of 32 windows. There are 3 windows per unit and 8 windows in the common hallways. Due to the age of the existing windows, the residents are having a hard time opening and closing them on their own. The wood siding is currently peeling and needs replacement. Another goal of this project is making the buildings more energy efficient. The new windows themselves would be energy efficient and insulation will be added while replacing the siding. So there's nothing in that description to me that says that there's an issue with the building envelope. It's like, to me, it sounds predominantly like a maintenance issue. So like when you say that the siding is peeling, to me, that means it needs to be scraped and painted and or replaced. And when you look at our guidelines, and it's like the original chart is you cannot maintain a housing project unless it was created with CPA funds. So it's like if we, issued the funds to build a house that was low income housing and then it needed to be painted and all, then we could go back and they could dip back into it. But where this wasn't, this sounds like more of a, in my mind anyway, it sounds more like a maintenance project than it does disturbing the building envelope. So I'm gonna circle back to like, I almost would like to see some sort of inspection report that justifies that there, the condition of the siding and the windows is detrimental to the overall health of the building.
I agree with that. In reading this, the first things that kind of crossed my mind are, well, what actual condition are all the windows in? Are they repairable? A lot of those old windows, well, they may not be energy efficient. It's a maintenance situation of repairing the sash or, something like that where it may have rotted out or needs new weights or something in it. So it's kind of something that I would like to see an inspection of and see what the actual condition of them is, and if there is actual water damage that's being caused by them.
I feel I'm inclined to agree with both of you. I think that if the windows are beyond their useful life and it's actually presenting a danger to the structure itself, then that would be one thing definitely. But if they're just beyond their useful life and need to be upgraded because they're inefficient and obsolete, I feel like that might kind of be another matter. Like you said, that might be more like maintenance.
do you think this needs to be worded differently, the eligibility form, Paul?
That I'd frankly be more interested in hearing what others have to say as far as that goes. I think that perhaps maybe at least looking at it and revising the scope of it once we as we kind of discuss what the difference is between preservation and maintenance, and maybe it could be fitting to kind of tighten up the language of the request to bring it more in line with what the CPC is really able to address, more than just necessarily kind of summarizing all the things that we'd would like to be done with it. Maybe if it could be tailored to the things that we are able to address, like the structure of it. But that I wouldn't have a strong feeling one way or the other whether it necessarily needed to be reworded. But I suppose it wouldn't hurt.
The other thing is, this is a request for eligibility, so we're taking them at their word. It's as it progresses, when we'd ask for documentation and costs and the details of what's being done. So I would almost want to just take them at the word that the windows are failing, they need to replace. Based upon that, judge its eligibility to move forward. Then they have to come in and say, and here's the evidence.
Well,
here's exactly what would be needed, here's what we would do, and we just say, well, you're not really, you're not really, the windows are failing based on what you're telling me, they just need maintenance, for example, so that changes things, but.
I think we are talking about, like, under, from at least what I've read, is that's your eligibility is the discrepancy between maintenance and this.
If you say they're eligible, then you've taken it to the next.
Well, I mean, which is fine, because you still, like, I get to your point, you still do have the ability. We can also, we don't necessarily need to deny this either, we can do like what we've done in the past, take it under advisement. And I'd be more than happy to reach out to the director and give a, a thorough explanation of, this is our concerns. I don't wanna, I do feel like we need some sort of documentation, at least from, the maintenance director to back up this, but I don't wanna say, oh, well, you worded it wrong, because we're back to square one, we need some sort of proof.
I wouldn't ask them to reword it, this is what they.
Right.
This is their application for eligibility. I think if you go and talk to them and say, this is the difference between preservation and maintenance, and explain that, and that we need the more information in order to consider it, then absolutely, but to act like they didn't write it right.
No, because
That sounds like we're playing a game that we're
Yeah.
not.
well, and it's opening up a door for people to play
Right.
games by wording it to fit the criteria. Some things that would be a little bit more difficult to back out of.
Yeah.
So,
I think, maybe if we do kind of how we did the trails where we take it under advisement, we did ask them for more information and to
Right.
provide additional
Yeah,
details.
same exact thing.
Same type of questions, if they were in front of us, we would be asking them these questions in person, so.
so I mean, with that being said, I will entertain a motion to take this under advisement.
Motion to take under advisement?
Sure.
All those in favor, because Paul's on Zoom, we'll do a roll call.
Paul Reynolds, aye.
Alicia Wilson, aye.
Brandon Cedrone, aye.
Adele Collin, aye.
Dan Higgins, aye.
Kevin Smith is an aye. Right, does anybody else have any other new business, any projects in their pipelines or anything that bring up? I don't see anyone else in attendance on Zoom, so we don't think we have any public input. So that being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second that.
Motion made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 We are adjourned
Aye.
at 5:59.
Have a great night, everybody. Thank you very much.
So,
I know.